And Keisha is a amazing credit repair person who it has really changed the way that she has structured so many other people's credit. So she has a super powerful story to deliver to you, and she's going to be providing fundamental value that's going to make your credit better during this. So thank you for joining our live. So Keisha, so
Thank you, Lauren, for having me.
yay, I'm so excited to have you. So how long have you been in the credit repair business?
Wow. Over 10 years, probably around 2012, I had an experience where someone stole my credit and identity. And I decided that I would try and rectify the situation by learning what I needed to do to repair my credit and take the power back from, my identity being stolen. So I decided then that I would learn, I would do some research, take some classes, and I learned how to repair my own credit. And then it was at that time that I thought, well, I really like helping people. So this could be something that I could do to help others who may be in a similar situation. But at that time, I didn't realize what the power of credit actually is. I've learned over the years that having an 800 credit score is so much better than having $100,000 cash in hand.
Absolutely. So give me a little bit of background on the credit repair process. Like, what are, we'll say, like three primary steps to get someone from maybe a 500 to a 700?
Education. Education is important. The main thing that I like to do is to make sure whoever I'm working with is educated about how to read their credit report, what's in the credit report, what the bureaus look at when they are assessing your credit report, and how they come up with your credit score. I also need for you to keep in mind that a lot of people focus a lot on the credit score, but the more important thing in your credit score is actually your credit profile and the way that it's set up. Because you could have a 700 credit score, but you could have some things on your credit report, on your profile, that when a creditor looks at your credit profile, they still may be a little leery as to extending credit to you.
So one of the lenders I spoke with, he explained to me that someone who has made consistent payments over time is actually better, even if let's say two people have the same credit score, we'll say 800 credit score. The person who's been paying over time is actually better than that person who just paid everything off and now, their credit just shot up several points. Like, they would prefer a buyer who has more long-term credit, which is why one of the factors that goes into your credit report is the length of time that you've had that credit.
Absolutely, a very, very valid point. And that's part of what I mean when I say the creditors look at your profile. Because a score, like you just pointed out, you can get a score in a matter of minutes by doing certain things. But that history, the longevity, what your credit profile actually looks like, it's very, very important for creditors when they are determining whether or not to extend credit.
Ah. So after educating yourself, what are some actions to take? So, yeah, like I know some people will go through and increase their credit limits on their credit cards. What are some other actions that they could take?
So when you are looking at your credit report, after you're educated and you learn what the credit bureaus are looking for in your credit report, you want to try to go through your credit report and identify inaccuracies. It's illegal for the credit bureaus to report anything that is incomplete and that is inaccurate on your credit report. You have to keep in mind a lot of programs talk a lot about deletions and getting deletions on your credit report. That is important, but it's important to know the proper steps to get the deletions. And sometimes some credit repair agencies go through an illegal route, which I talk about with my clients so they can identify the legal route and what may be considered an illegal route to get deletions from your credit report. But if anything is reported erroneously on your credit report, you can legally get those things removed from your credit report by speaking with the creditors or credit bureaus. And when I say speaking with them, it's always best to do things in writing so that you have a paper trail. The credit bureaus are required to react and respond in certain time frames. So if you send out your letters and they don't respond in appropriate time frames,
Mm,
then that's one of the ways that you can secure a legal deletion.
wow. Okay. So let's say I send something out to Discover, then Discover, and let's say Discover never responds, then at that point, you can potentially have something deleted.
Now, my the way that I operate is I like to communicate directly with the credit bureaus
Ah,
because it's the credit bureaus who they have to be able to report things accurately and consistently. And they're getting their information from the different creditors, but they all have to meet at the same point because you can't have Experian reporting one thing, Equifax reporting one thing, and TransUnion reporting another thing. That's inaccurate information because they all get their information from one source. So I kind of go against reaching out directly to the specific creditors and would rather you work directly with the credit bureaus.
ah, okay, okay. And what are give me an example of what you did with a client to get them from, we'll say, I don't know what an initial credit score would be for someone who would usually come to you. What was the process? Like, so they came to you and then what happened? You did your consultation with them to get a good idea?
Yes. So the first thing we would do is have a consultation and see what your goals are with your credit. Are you trying to buy a house? Are you just trying to improve your score? Things like that. So once we get the basis of what you're trying to do as far as improving your credit, then we'll go to the next step, which is the education. After the education step, then we'll go to reviewing your credit report and identify any errors on your credit report. Once those errors are identified on your credit report, then we start to sending out the letters to your credit bureaus. And those credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the three major credit bureaus. So we would send out a series of letters to the credit bureaus and then you wait for a response. They have a certain amount of time to reply. If they don't reply, then you can reply and let them know that you were waiting for them to reply. And at this time, you tell them what the next step you want. And if they do reply, then you go to the next step, which is to send out your next letter. And that all depends on what happens with whatever it is they reply, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. So, what is the benefit of using someone who does credit repair over trying to navigate this process on your own?
I am always honest with my clients or potential clients, and I tell them you can absolutely do this process yourself. You really, really can. Um, the benefits of working with someone who has a little bit more knowledge is knowing the strategic steps to actually getting the results that you want. Um, it does take time and it is tedious. So a
Mhm.
lot of times people come to us because they don't have the actual time that it takes to work on restoring their credit. But it is a process that you can absolutely do yourself. I would also help you if you want to do it yourself. I would also help you educating you as to how to go about doing it for yourself.
Ah, okay. Okay. And what, of course, we have to ask, what is your fee structure for, and what is the time limit that you would be working with a client?
So the time limit first. The time limit all depends on what the consumer is looking for. What are your goals as far as restoring your credit? I have worked with some people and as little as 45 days and seeing the improvements that they want. It also depends on where your score is when you begin. So, where your score is when you begin, and then where you would like to see your score end when we complete the process. So the time frames vary. With that being said, the time frames vary. Um, for a do-it-yourself course, I can do a do-it-yourself training for $200. I do sometimes offer free workshops where you can come in. And in fact, I am planning to schedule one really, really soon. The time and date are to be determined. And I can get back with Lauren and let you guys know when that's going to be, but it's coming up really soon. And then for as far as the fee structure is when you come in, we go over your credit report, we see what you need to do, and then we try to work with our clients based on what they can afford. I do require a $100 deposit after we do our consultation. And if you decide to come aboard, I do require a $100 deposit. And then once we determine what your goal is, we kind of set up a fee structure that way, if that makes sense.
So that's great because then each client has a different situation. So now my last question. So a lot of the time, if someone has a lower credit score, it's because they may have not had, well, of course, there's the educational piece, but they may not have a lot of money to be able to pay these creditors off. So the question for you do you work with clients who don't have all the money in the world to be able to just pay off all of their debt?
Absolutely. And that's another reason why we do the fee structure the way that we do. Honestly, this program that I offer here is really not about money for me. Of course, it helps, but my goal is really to help people try to improve their credit and with the least amount of expense possible. So if someone comes to me and they have one or two things that need to be addressed on their report, I don't think that they should have to pay the same thing as someone who has 10 things that needs to be addressed on their report. So, and if you a lot of times it's not really about having money.
Yeah.
Money does help. That's the way you can move quickly and get things removed really, really quickly. But at the same time, the communication process with writing the letters, identifying the errors on your credit report, a lot of times those things don't require as much money as to say if we were trying to negotiate with a creditor and saying that we need to pay X amount to have this item removed or to have this item updated on your credit report.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Keisha. Thank you so much for coming onto this live. And
You
let me know, anybody out there, let us know if you are interested in credit repair or if you need any assistance in that area so that we can get a consultation going with you and Keisha. But I will see you guys later and chat soon.